And on this episode, which will be the fourth in a series of 6 on Trading Ratings of 90s definitive comedies, we have Ace Ventura from 1994, starring Jim Carrey, Courtney Cox, and former NFL quarterback and 9-time Pro Bowler Dan Marino. I had forgotten it's obvious to say, but how Jim Carrey this movie is. It's so Jim Carrey. Oh my God.
My first bullet under 90s relevance was Jim Carrey was the 90s, specifically 1994. And Ace Ventura was Jim Carrey. And it spawned a culture of imitators and and a super career of Jim Carrey doing Jim Carrey.
1994, he was in this, and then he was, I think, next he was in The Mask, and he was in Dumb and Dumber, all in 1994. I mean, that's insane. They were all smash hits. Amazing.
We could do an entire episode on 1994 between those three movies. Now, granted, I think a bunch of them you've probably talked about already, but Forrest Gump was 94, Shawshank Redemption was 94, Pulp Fiction was 94. 1994 is, in my opinion, the ultimate pop culture year of my lifetime. Musically, movie-wise, 94 was just huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is fucking wild to think about. I can't remember what other one, because I want to say there was another movie that I'm not thinking of from 94. And they said all 4 of those movies were in some theaters at the same time during their initial run.
Wow.
And it's can you imagine you could go from one to the next and how fucking amazing it would be?
It's wild. So yeah. Of course, 3 of those movies we mentioned were 8 hours long. So I don't know if you could fit them all in the same day.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. In this movie, so it's definitely it feels 90s. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Me too. Yeah, it does. It's
a super it does feel it feels low budget to me compared to the other ones we watched. It feels for something about the way it's shot, it just seems a little bit bit lower budget.
Definitely.
But
it also for only being 1 year between Ace Ventura 1 and Ace Ventura 2, Ace Ventura 2 felt like it had 3 times the budget just for camera equipment alone. You know what I mean?
Right.
To your point about it has I don't even know how to describe it. Yeah, a low budget feel maybe to it. But it definitely doesn't feel 80s to me though. It feels like it's the 90s.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, but it's at the same time there are a ton of non-90s references being made by Jim Carrey's character why am I saying Jim Carrey's character? By Ace Ventura. And it's
who played Ace Ventura again?
So it's he makes these references, and I know I didn't understand him the first, because he's referencing Star Trek. He's referencing just this random shit that it's I didn't understand it. But it's he has all of these great lines, if I'm not back in 5 minutes, just wait longer. And I love that. That I don't know. It's
I caught that too. Ridiculous. Yeah, I didn't even remember that line from. No, it's been a few years since I've seen it, probably, but I caught that one too. I was like, God, that's a great line.
And I think, and the other thing that helps with the low budget that I have noted is the music that they use. The incidental music is really low budgety. It feels cheap to me. But this movie, honestly, for me, it holds up well enough to overcome that, because I mean, obviously, when they made this movie, it wasn't they expected it to be a smash hit.
On the point of it feeling like the 90s, I don't know if it feels like the 90s because it reflects the 90s at that point so much as I feel like the rest of the 90s after 1994 reflected Jim Carrey, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like there was a turning point when this movie came out and Jim Carrey became bigger than the movie industry itself for a time. And it all spawned from this one. I mean, his Alrighty Then and Loser and, the way he says those things. I remember do you remember the Ace Ventura cartoon?
Yes, I do remember the Ace Ventura cartoon.
Somebody who wasn't Jim Carrey acting like Jim Carrey. Carrey, for doing the voice. And I remember every kid in America doing Ace Ventura impressions, to the extent that as a 12-year-old kid, I thought it got obnoxious, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like, when I was in college and everybody was doing Rick James or Dave Chappelle as Rick James.
Right.
And like within a week, it was like, all right, if you're doing that impression, you're lame, right?
Right, exactly.
Right.
It
was like,
done,
it was so big that I feel like that's where Ace Ventura went, where like after a while, it was just like, oh my God, all right, that's enough. I feel like it contributed to what became the 90s. You know what I mean?
Right. Like you said, it doesn't feel necessarily like it does the 90s in the way that these other movies do, but it's like, I can't associate anything as I'm watching it with anything but the 90s because I know this is it.
This is when I almost feel like, and maybe again, it's just because the 90s ended up reflecting it, but like, I don't know if it would have worked in 1985 or 2005. Like in 1994, I feel like we were ripe for something. And this is the one that I mentioned way back when we were talking about Wayne's World, that everything in this movie, every movement, every line, every facial expression is dialed up to 11, if not 25, right? And I don't think this movie works at all if he left it at a 9 or a 10. It's so over the top, but that's how it works. Whether he's doing his alrighty then, like that's, completely drawn out, or he's doing his, talking out of his ass, or any of that to Tone Loc, by the way. You didn't mention starring Tone Loc.
Yes. He had to be in it.
Or any of that stuff. Like, I don't think any of that stuff would have worked if it wasn't cranked up so high.
One note I did make that I was genuinely shocked by is Courtney Cox was already 29 when this movie came out.
Yeah. In fact, I wrote down...
She turned 30 on Friends later, so what am I to believe? You know what I mean? Is it... How old is she really?
It's weird. Like, I wrote down the names of the people, or the ages of the main stars in that, because I just find it interesting. Because again, it's one of those movies, you watch it when you're 12. In your head, they're like grown-ups,
Oh, yeah.
And looking back, Jim Carrey was 32. Courtney Cox, actually, I wrote down Courtney Cox Arquette was 30. 29, 30. Sean Young, who plays the police chief, was only 35. And she was like the female lead.
She was in Blade Runner and stuff.
In Blade Runner. Yeah. She was the female lead in Blade Runner, which was years before this. And she was only 35. That was like
81, maybe? I
was thinking like 82 or 83, something like that. But she would have been 25 in that, I guess, or early 20s. Tone Loc was only 28.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess
was he like 16 when he was a big rapper?
Well, you gotta remember, like when Ice Cube was with NWA, he was 19, 19. You know what I mean? So it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, no, it kind of shocked me how young they all were, considering I'm 40 now. I'm older now than Sean Young was in this, and I'm like, oh my God.
Right. Yeah, I'm surprised because, I would have thought, Jim Carrey, when did Jim Carrey start on In Living Color? Like, when was he on that show? It
would have been before this, because I feel Year of Jim Carrey springboarded off of him being the funny white guy on In Living Color. He did. Because this was almost, you remember, I don't know if you remember, he did Fire Marshal Bill or something, Fire Marshal Bob, something like that, which was like kind of one of his trademark characters on that. And this kind of borrows from a lot of that, goofy, over the top voice that he was doing with that character was almost borrowed for this. It felt, I remember thinking that at the time, though, was like, oh, it's Fire Marshal Bill is in a movie, has his own movie now.
Yeah. I was just trying to think if I couldn't remember when he actually started on that show and when he left and all that stuff. Because obviously I wouldn't have been aware of it at the time. The fact that he was, I guess it makes sense if he was that much older that he probably would have started in Living Color, reasonably well before that. So.
What were you going to say?
So I don't know if you want to talk about this, but
I probably know where you're going.
There's this moment at the end of this movie, or toward the end of the movie, where it's revealed that Sean Young's character was, however delicately you want to put it, born a man, and we see a bulge in her underwear, and everyone is like there's a whole sequence where Ace Ventura is is puking, and he's just so grossed out. Yep. And then like all these people find out, and it's like that is the essential type, like would not fly today. Like it would not. I don't think they would do it.
So let's unpack that a little, because I feel like that's when you're talking about, you know, eras and it was a different time and does this movie fit in that time? Like I feel like you can't not talk about this sequence, because his entire, you know, he's taking a shower and burning his clothes and all that, all because he kissed a trans woman who was born as a man. That in itself, like, and, you know, I'm not super PC myself, so like that part didn't, and of course, you know, I'm not a trans person, so like I can't relate to that in that way, but I still kind of find those scenes funny, but at the same time, I can't not see it in light of 30 years later. Not only would that not really fly now, but it just, it feels kind of icky that the way that they portray the whole thing. And it's not even just that how grossed out he and everyone else is. The other thing that's, I think, is probably just as uncouth now, which wasn't even thought of back then, though, was that the fact that Ray Finkel had a sex change and became Lois Einhorn, they use that itself as a characteristic that illustrates how unstable and crazy the person is. You know what I mean? Like it's used as a characteristic to illustrate that the person is unstable. And that is really, I think, more so the thing that doesn't set so well now, you know?
Right. I would agree with that. I mean, it's like you see it, especially like in movies probably like significantly older than this. Like there's a lot of like callous talk around being gay and, you know, things like that. And it's like, it's just amazing, like to watch a movie and see like, I'm like, oh God, it used to be like that. Like that used to be really a thing, like all the time. And it was totally acceptable.
And I think too, just in case any of your listeners are like, oh, of course, you know, cancel culture, which is, you know, don't get me started on how the way that, in my opinion, is misrepresented. But this, like, I think if you would have watched this 10 years ago, you would have felt that way. Like, ugh, really? You know what I mean? Like, in fact, I think I remember watching it 10 years ago and thinking to myself, like, man, this doesn't seem like, something feels off about this. Or like,
I feel uncomfortable, like, even watching this. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie Slapshot, speaking of which, with Paul Newman, the hockey movie? I remember watching that 10 to 15 years ago, and they dropped the F word in that so many times, and it like rocks it. I remember it like, look, I was in my own living room and looking over my shoulder and being like, oh my God, like, like who's watching this behind me that might be offended? Like, oh my God, it was like jarring watching it. So yeah, I feel like this is an aspect of this movie that dated itself 15 years ago. Having said all that, I thought it holds up as a comedy. Like, I'll be honest, I went into this kind of thinking, hey, I haven't seen this in at least a decade. I'll bet you this doesn't hold up that well in terms of like, it's just a bunch of mugging and faces and voices or whatever. It's probably going to be, find it more annoying than anything. I found myself laughing through the whole thing as though it was 1994 again. I surprised myself in that I think it, from a purely comedic standpoint, I actually felt it held up.
Right, like even the unpleasant sequence in question, like if it wasn't that like the bits that follow it are about, like if it was just something else and it was silly and it was just like not that, it would be still hysterical. You know what I mean? Like it still got that way about it. So
yep. And it's, again, even that scene is so over the top. Or when they spin her around and you see that she still has a dick.
Right.
And the fact that every single guy there started throwing up means that she's been running around making out with everyone.
Right.
That was what you were supposed to take away from that. The only other thing that I'm not sure about was the portrayal when he's at the mental institution. Like, would that be looked at as like not cool now? I still find that scene to be hilarious. I hope that doesn't get me in trouble. But
I don't think that's like, to me, that's not like as commonly. The perception is like, I don't think people would even think twice about it now, but it's tough to say.
So the only couple of things that I did want to point out before I talk about my rating. We talked about all those like super famous lines that kind of became mimicked by every kid in America. One that didn't really get mimicked, but is probably my favorite line in the movie, is where he and Courtney Cox are arguing, and he just says, "Yeah, and you're ugly." Like, for some reason, I've always thought that was just hilarious. That's his comeback, is just, "You're ugly." Especially because I also noted that I don't know if she ever looked better than she looks in that movie. I mean, granted, she's 30 years old and probably in, peak shape, but she looks fantastic in that movie.
Oh, yeah, she does.
And his comeback
Most
is that
definitely.
you're ugly. I never noticed until this viewing how Canadian he sounds when he says sorry. And he says it like 3 times, and it's so Canadian sounding. I also noticed, and this is just because it was weirdly relevant, his landlord was Mark Margolis, the old man from Breaking Bad. He's been in a million things. Yeah. He literally had just died. As of the time of this recording, he died like a week and a half ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I thought that, and when we were watching this, he had, like, the day before that or something, he had died. I was like, holy crap, that's Mark Margolis. He just died.
So for those that's tuning in at home,
trivia things.
That's early August of 2023 is when Mark Margolis died. Right. So I have one interesting trivia item because it is insane to me to think about. Okay. Casting note. Rick Moranis was offered the role of Ace Ventura, but declined. It was also offered to Judd Nelson, David Alan Grier, and Alan Rickman, and they also considered gender swapping the title character and casting Whoopi Goldberg.
That blows my mind if it's true. I can't even... I thought this movie was invented for Jim Carrey. Like,
no, because I was reading about that.
I can't even picture somebody else doing it.
Now, anybody else.
Yeah. Granted, they wouldn't have been doing Ace Ventura like him, because I did read that he actually developed that voice while they were doing table reads and stuff for it. It wasn't right out of the gates a character that he had. Like, it seemed to me my whole life, maybe just because he's so that character, that like this was a character that he could have invented for In Living Color, and they were like, let's give that character a movie. Well, like I said, it felt like they were giving Fire Marshal Bill a movie to an extent.
Right.
So
that's the thing is, I read that. I read multiple things about that, because it was basically like they were making this movie and they were clearly considering certain people. Mm-hmm. And I guess like what they did was they thought, well, if we just cast one of these guys, it's going to be an okay movie. It's probably not going to do anything. It's just going to not be a hit. And they decided to cast Jim Carrey, and then they effectively like let him do whatever he wanted to and make shit up on the fly, go off script completely. And it was like, that's where it makes sense. Cause like, if you know, that they made it and they like decided to cast him. And then it's like, this character was not originally probably a very Jim Carrey character. Mm-hmm. And then he made it his. So
I do definitely think if it wasn't Jim Carrey in that role doing Jim Carrey's thing, this would have been a terrible movie.
Oh,
this works awful. Because he's such a goofball.
Well, especially like any of these.
I can't even picture Rick Moranis. Like
Judd. I mean, those Alan Rickman. By the way, what
it would have been a surly version,
right? He would have just been coming off like Robin Hood. I mean, like what would have fueled people to think, oh, Alan Rickman would be a great comedic actor?
Right. I don't know. Know. That's bizarre. That blows my mind.
So I guess for this one, I'll say like there is that certain subject matter that is questionable in this movie, but I give this an A. Like I still really like Ace Ventura, and the part that I kind of have to like cringe at is it's not so bad. I couldn't feel bad rewatching it.
And it's a different time.
And just the humor, it's so great. I mean, just Jim Carrey's bits are immaculate. Like they're so well so well delivered and concocted that it's perfect. So definitely an A rating for me.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I gave it an A. I think it held up better than I expected it to. And again, even with the kind of cringy trans portrayal, I think not to excuse it, but looked in the context of when they made this movie, it was what it was.
Right.
But I think it holds up. It's so funny. Jim Carrey doing his thing is so funny. Even though I will say, I think the funniest line in the entire movie is not delivered by Jim Carrey, which is odd, and which I never really thought about until this latest viewing. But I think when the old lady who plays Ray Finkel's mom very calmly says, and matter-of-factly says, Dan Marino should die of gonorrhea and rot in hell, as she's giving him cookies, might actually be the single funniest line in the entire movie.
That is ridiculous.
And I gave it an A. I love it. And we didn't include Ace Ventura 2 on here, but I've always felt that Ace Ventura 2 might actually even be funnier. So
yeah. I know people were quoting it like on an equal level with the first one when I was in school and stuff.
They somehow redid that same ridiculous character and managed to keep it fresh, which in itself is a feat that should be lauded.
Right. So yeah, I get that's Ace Ventura from 1994. And have a good rest of your day. Bye now. Brandon at Random Reviews artwork, theme music, and podcast are written, performed, recorded, engineered, directed, and produced by Brandon Griffiths in association with Brandon at Random Reviews Entertainment.